to another video and back to Tokyo. Pretty excited to be back here. Today I will take you along for a day of street photography here in Tokyo, and I'm going to talk through everything I typically look out for when I'm taking photos on the street. Hopefully it's useful for you, whether you're kind of new or just getting into street photography, or you don't really know what to look out for, or these are the things that help me and what I'm often looking out for. So let's get into it. So the first one is quite an easy one, and it helps when you've got good conditions. So that's like today when the sun's out, there is a few clouds, so it keeps ducking behind a little bit, but that's searching for these little patches or pockets of light. This is a really good one in cities because you can do it almost any time of day. You get the buildings creating these nice little patches of light in different areas. So big cities are great for this, and a pretty easy one to look out for. Personally, this is why I'm more attracted to shooting in bright sunny conditions. I kind of like that contrast it creates, and the city is so great for this because even in the middle of the day you can keep shooting. A lot of places, like when shooting landscape photography, it's kind of hard to shoot much during the middle of the day, but if you're in a city, that's not the case. You can find interesting light pretty much all day when the sun's out, so that's why I really like this one. But of course, conditions don't always play along. But what about when conditions aren't playing into your favor, which is kind of happening today? I'm getting little patches of light, but then the clouds come and it disappears. And this was very true yesterday, where it was overcast the entire day. When you can't look out for these patches of light, you need obviously a different approach. So what I like to do, especially when maybe I'm finding it a little bit harder to find scenes and feeling a little bit lost, what I often do is start using different things and different layers for foreground. That might be shooting through windows, using reflections, or even just using poles and different things to create interesting foreground in your shots. This is something that just makes them a little bit more interesting. And I actually was able to get quite a few results I was happy with. Sometimes I can just walk around aimlessly and feel a bit lost. So when I'm doing that, this is definitely a technique I fall back on to kind of get me into the groove a little bit. Street photography for me, sometimes I just need to get on a bit of a roll and start taking photos. So this is a good one to look out for. Photography is I'm very much more of a scene focus than a subject focus. That means usually I'm looking for interesting scenes, and sometimes I just want a subject, and it doesn't really matter what subject. Yes, I want them to be interesting. That's where I might wait a bit longer, but I'm looking for them to enter my scene rather than hunting them down and looking for these really interesting subjects. So this next point really ties into a fact that a lot of people are either fishers or hunters when they're out taking street photography. And I definitely lean far more on the fishing side of things. So what this means, basically, I find a nice frame or a nice scene, and then I'm, as I said, kind of waiting for someone interesting to enter that scene. You probably always need a mix of both, but I think some people definitely lean more to one than the other, and I'm definitely more of a fisher. It's quite a nice scene here with this bike. Kind of like it on its own for this one. It's nice, but I'm just going to try and make it a little bit more interesting by creating that little bit of foreground here. I'm not sure that's a great example, but it's definitely a bit more interesting than the original shot. So keep moving. One other one I sometimes use when I'm feeling a bit stuck, especially if you don't want to get in people's way, is actually just looking for interesting details or something interesting on the street. You can apply this to people as well, but sometimes to get you just on a roll and taking some photos, it might be some interesting details, like some of these lanterns here in Japan are always interesting. Regardless of what city you're in, usually there's something interesting like this that can attract your eye, and again, just hopefully get you on a roll and taking some photos. Even if you don't love them and they're not absolute bangers, they are really interesting to pop into things like photo sets, whether that's a carousel on Instagram or a set of images you're putting together in a book or website. Having these kind of shots that are a little bit different really break up your other shots as well. Although, as I mentioned, I'm more of a scene-based street photographer, I do look out for certain things in terms of subjects, and that really depends on where I am. I want something that's kind of unique to the place that I'm in, and basically anything that I think's interesting. I'm more after a bit of intrigue in my photos. And I think that's why I capture a lot of these subjects and scenes where you can't always see exactly what's happening. Another point to mention here is whether you seek out kind of real action scenes where everything's happening, might be shooting events or something, or whether you're a bit more like me and you prefer where there's probably a few less people around, you don't like throwing yourself into the heart of the action, and either are fine. But this is what I like shooting, kind of these quieter scenes. I'm a bit more comfortable in these situations, which means I'm going to take more and better photos. So you don't always have to seek out what you think you should be doing. Sometimes it's good to push yourself outside that comfort zone a little bit as well, which I try to. But remember, seek out what you like capturing on the street as well, because that's what's going to make you unique, and that's what's going to make you get better at it, because you're going to want to keep shooting those type of things. So I think that's important as well. Hope you have enjoyed this one. I've definitely enjoyed talking about it. Keep on creating and keep on growing, my friends. I'll catch you in the next video here in Tokyo. Bye for now.